I'm Michael Redmond, professional 9-dan Go player. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about a variation of the 3-3 point. So I'm going to talk about the direct 3-3 invasion, which by my definition is when there are no stones on the adjacent sides. So that means there are no white or black stones in this general area. Quite often there are no stones except for the corner points. So when white crawls, I'm going to be talking about the knight's move in this case. When black plays the knight's move and white bumps against it, black has two choices at this point. Actually, three choices. Black can play away, or black can extend here, or play a hane here. So it's one of the three, playing away or one of these 2 points. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the hane here, playing a hane underneath and then playing a double hane. And this is going to be relatively simple to understand the move itself, but the fact that it changes the direction of black's wall is going to make it a bit more complicated to use in full board positions. And the meaning here is that when black plays this joseki and has covered on this side, let's get rid of these, and has covered on this side, usually one would think that black is trying to build in this direction. Therefore, black is maybe hoping to make a moyo or territorial framework in this area. However, when black plays a hane and plays the double hane here, in this case, usually black is going to build a wall in this direction. So starting with covering on this side and then building a wall towards the left is a little bit counterintuitive. And that's what makes this variation, in my opinion, intermediate. First, I would just like to back off a few moves and take a look at one other variation that I think is not so good. Locally, that is. Black can play a double hane here to start with. In this case, white can capture the one stone, and in return, black has a choice of either playing an atari here or forcing with this. Generally, the hane on the second line is more attractive. So I'm going to have black play here. White will capture the one stone. Black gets a force to this point. And so that forcing sequence was nice, but we end up with a position where white has a living shape. This shape, having taken a black stone to get this eye here, white has just one eye in that one point. And then we'll be able to make a second eye in points like this or like this. So white is already very close to being alive, has the one eye at this point, and then can easily make one more eye. It means that later on, probably not immediately, but later on when black plays a move like this, it will have very little effect on the white group. There will be no added value in a potential attack. So I'm going to compare that variation with the idea that maybe white's going to, when black plays here, what if white plays here and takes the upper side, or white is taking a position in this direction. In this case, black will be happy to play here and force with this sequence. And now we can see that white is just missing one stone when compared to the other variation. Just one stone difference. This is the variation where black started with the double hane at this point. And this is the variation I'm showing you now. In this case, later on, when black plays the connection here, white will have just one eye. This whole area here is limited to just one eye. And so black will have the option of attacking later, for instance, with a move like this, or a combination of the knight's move here and a move like that. White will have more trouble making two eyes eventually it could easily make one tempo difference, one extra move that white has to use to make a living shape. So the difference between this position and this position is potentially very big. There's a potential added value for black. Therefore, I'm going to say that this variation is actually bad for white in most cases. And this position, where white has captured this one black stone, I'm going to say that this is usually good for white. In both cases, this move, although it does have to do with a potential attack on white, is not necessarily played immediately. So to go back to the point that black has played the hane here, it's almost always best for white to cover on the second line. And now black has two choices. Black can cut here or play the double hane. And I'm going to limit this video to the double hane and talk about the cut in a separate video. So when black plays this double hane, now white does not have the option of capturing that one stone. If white tries to capture the one stone, this is just so bad for white that almost any board position it would be bad. A lot of positions do depend on the board position, so I might be saying they're not so good for one side, and it still could depend on the board position. But in this case, it's almost always going to be bad for white. So since white cannot take there, white actually has two choices. The simple move would be just to capture the one stone. In this case, when black has played the double hane, black's main line will be to play some kind of a connection on the fourth line. So I'm going to say this move or this move. One of these two moves is going to be a good move for black. And this is because when black played this move, the double hane on the second line, black was setting out to build some territory or potential territory on this side, in this direction, making thickness in this direction. So I want to compare these two moves, this move and this move. This move is very solid, gives no forcing moves to white, and has thickness towards the center of the board. This move has the drawback that it gives white one extra forcing move from the center. So there is some potential gain that white might have from this exchange. Basically, if we compare it to this variation and this variation, you can see it's an exchange of this white stone for this black stone. It's a very small difference, but white does have a little bit of extra potential towards the center, and some potential that maybe that marked stone, that marked white stone, could even become a ladder breaking move. There's that potential for white. And for black, black has extra strength towards this direction. So in this variation, black set out to build some territory in that direction. So it makes sense that in some cases, black will want to have the extra strength towards the side. So the pros and cons pretty much even out. Now there's this move. Covering on the second line, if white happens to take the one stone, then black can play one of those two choices, either this move or it could be this move. And it's not a bad exchange. It's more or less equal also. But there is the problem that maybe white is not going to capture the one stone now. Now white has the option to cut here and capture that one stone on the side. We will get into this variation, which in most cases I'm going to say this is slightly better for white. In this case, it's a very minor difference. So this is something that black could play in some board positions, but usually when black has played the double hane at this point, black is trying to build something on this side. And it makes more sense for black to go into the other variation, where black has played here to build on the upper side, on this side of the board. So now I'd like to go into some board positions, full board positions from actual games to show you a better idea of what I'm talking about here. So here we are with an early invasion to the 3-3 point. This is a very common board position. It has become very popular. White plays here. And I wanted to show you this because this is an example of how you can sometimes get the same position with the extension. In this video, I was talking about white playing the knight's move. But we can see here that you can also get to this position. If white plays here, this would be the usual move, but sometimes black will crawl here, in which case you can get the same position. In this game, white actually played away at this point. So that's one of the options that white has. And we're going to get into the variation that I've been talking about in the upper right corner. So it's sort of interesting here to see the same sequence in two corners. Although in this upper right corner, black did start with the knight's move, whereas in the upper left corner, white started with the extension. So these are two variations that at this point of the game, they're identical. They're reaching the same position here in the local fights. So in this board position, it looks like black has more potential in this area than black does in this area, because white is already has a stone here. Even if black plays first, black's move in that area would be to play an Atari maybe, and play something like this would be normal. You can see that the upper side, this area here, is not that big. It's not going to spread out into the center very easily. So this seems to be the correct move. And now black plays the double-hane. So white cuts here. And black has two choices. In this position, I would suggest it's good for black to play here to continue on the right side. And so now black has maybe not a territory yet, but has good potential in this area. And that is how the double-hane works. White will maybe continue with the peep and this move. So this is what white gets in return. White has this very large move that white has played on the upper side. But this is all right for black because, as I was saying, this whole area, because black is low in the upper left corner, because black has a low position there, the whole area, the upper side, is relatively small. And another thing about this position is now that black does not have to do anything on the upper side and is free to invade the left side. So it makes a good flow of stones for black in the actual game. So I would say that black could play here. Playing at A also would be a perfectly normal move. But this pincer, this free space pincer, you might say, against white's wall is something that AlphaGO showed us. And it played it with great success in some of its self-played games. And I like the idea of pincering the wall fairly closely. In this case, actually, I'm going to go into a variation that I told you was bad, the double-hane. In this board position, it's probably okay for white to play this double-hane because the upper side, this area, is relatively small. The damage done to white by allowing black to get that ponnuki, the strong position capturing a single stone, the damage that white incurs from that is relatively small. And white can start to attack on the left side. In this variation, you see that white's wall here, with the potential high in the corner, if white really needs to live, white can make some eye space in this general area. Maybe if we include this area, white can make some eye space there. So the white group is stronger than the black stone here, and white has some potential to attack. So this would be pretty close to even as far as I can tell. Otherwise, if black plays here, this is an example of a position in which white would want to switch to the right side. Instead of taking the one stone, which would allow black to play something like this, I think white should switch to the right side now. Black gets to capture the one stone, and we'll continue the variation here. you can see that the upper side is not going to amount to much. So back to the single corner position, I do want to show you one more variation for white. When black plays the double hane here, white can also play a cut on the fourth line. This is not main line, but if the ladder favors white, sometimes white will do this in an attempt to split the black groups. So black connects here, and now white will take the one stone, provided the ladder does not favor black, because if black captures here in a ladder, this is almost always good for black, unless white has a very effective ladder breaking move. When the ladder favors white, black will probably just play something like this. And the question is, how much mileage can white get out of this stone? Quite often, it's very difficult to make a direct attack against either black group, but at some point, white might be hoping to extend here. And there is a weak point for the black group on the right here. So there is some potential that white can take away black's eye space. For the time being, it looks like black has more potential to attack white. So I would say that this kind of variation for white would probably come only after white maybe has a stone on the side like this, or a stone on the upper side, somewhere around here. One more stone in the vicinity would make this extension at 7 a feasible move for white. So the idea for white might be to force black to add one more stone after playing one of those mark points. So to look at that in a board position. So here we have a position where black has just played the AlphaGO pincer, as I call it, a 3-space pincer against the white wall here. I'm talking about these 3 spaces, the 3 spaces between the black stone and the white wall. So this is the distance at which AlphaGO likes to pincer that wall. White invades the 3-3 point. And when white bumps against black and plays the hane, this again is a position where black has a number of choices, but in this case black chose to play the hane and the double hane. So black is trying to build some territory in the right side, so towards this area. But also in this board position, black does have some potential on the upper side also. In this game, white actually played the cut and then took the one stone. So in this case, white is going to be trying to make some potential out of this stone. And in showing you this game, I think the conclusion for myself is that it is not very straightforward, because for the time being, black does have a fairly strong position here and has a position here too on this side. So it doesn't look like white can quickly make much use of that one stone by extending here. Extending at this point, black would just answer with something like that. And you can see that locally white is in more trouble than black. So white will continue probably, instead of doing that, white will be playing stuff like this maybe, in some cases, trying to connect up to this white stone in a more indirect way. So that is how white usually uses that. It's very difficult for white to make a direct use of this cut here, but sometimes white will play it when white is trying to complicate matters or have the potential to cut black off. So here we are back at the single corner diagram, and I'll just recap what I've been talking about today. So white's normal move would be to cut here, and I'm going to suggest that either this move or this move is feasible. If black is still trying to surround the right side also, sometimes black can play this, but you have to remember that this gives white an opportunity to capture the one stone on the upper side, leading to this trade. And the other white move, white basically just has these 2 choices. Anything else would be a bit too painful. So in this case, white will cut once, and this depends on the ladder when black plays here. But if the ladder favors white, we get into this position. And it all depends on how much use white can make of this stone here. I don't think it can move out immediately, but sometimes white can get a move on one of the sides to force black to capture that one once. So So that finishes my video for this variation of the 3-3 point Joseki. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, so if you did, please hit the like button and sign up for the channel. Thank you.